If we all did something like this regularly, I think that it would be a louder voice than the ones that are yelling at each other.
I think this is an amazing experience that you guys are trying to spread love.
It's like spreading love.
You like flowers?
Love flowers.
I didn't doubt that I would love my baby, but I doubted that I was the right woman for the job. I was given this daughter to change my heart and to show me a different kind of perfect.
Love is in the air, and we have people lining up, have their picture taken in Teleflora's photo booth on wheels to share their love out loud. These photos that are being taken are being plastered in the Teleflora billboard right here in Times Square.
Jennifer's been in the military for 5 years, and I think we've maybe had one actual Christmas together.
Let us raise our glasses to one united family, even though we are many thousands of miles away. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hear, hear.
Holly, you must be so proud of your husband. I know he's been gone since May. Is there anything that you would like him to know right now? Anything you'd want to say to him?
Oh, just that we love him and we miss him.
Well, thanks to our sponsor, Teleflora. They love connecting families with video messaging, so we actually have a special message for you right here.
Miss you guys. Happy holidays to all. Wish I was there and could give you a big hug. Oh wait, maybe I can.
Thank you. Oh, you got some schmutz.
I am so excited to be here. I want to thank Michigan for your hospitality. This is not my first rodeo in Michigan. My very first presentation as a paid professional presenter was right here in Grand Rapids, and it was in 2012. And I fell in love with this area. It reminds me so much of home. Of course, we're going to work on y'all's southern accent, and y'all going to help me learn to speak correctly, but it's still going to be a team effort in everything that we do today. So I'm really grateful to be back. It's kind of a full circle, you know, and I did start as the delivery driver. So it's from the floor up for Jody McLeod. And you know how it is in those summer months, and those of you who keep the delivery drivers busy between nothing to do and nothing to do, that was what my job was. They were like, here, do this, here, do that, here, do this, here, do that. And then finally one day, it was the dead of summer, and they said, well, you know, you might as well just come on back here and help us create some fall designs. So I went back there and played. You know, I had been watching everybody play, right? And I always wanted to play in that sandbox, but I'm just a delivery driver, you know, stay in your lane. And that's a pun on delivery drivers. And so designed. The next day, excuse me, some ladies from downtown Clayton came in, and they made purchases. And when I came in from a delivery, they said, you should be very proud of yourself. I said, why? She said, because Mrs. Cooper and Mrs. Starling and Mrs. Taylor have come in today, and everything they bought was what you designed yesterday. What? Now listen, y'all, I'm talking about, you know, the bale of hay and the scarecrow and a few flowers and some ribbon. You know, I'm talking way back in the day. But I was like, wow, this is amazing. And the owner was super impressed, and she goes, well, you know, I really don't need you as a delivery driver anymore. I need you as a designer. So that's kind of how I got started. And then a year and a half later, when I graduated from East Carolina University and majored in business management, she was getting ready to sell the florist. And I said, well, you know, I've kind of lived here my whole life too, got some connections. You know, it's very important networking even back in 1990. So I acquired her shop in 1990 and been at it kind of ever since and love what I do. But the majority, 90% of my education has been through my state association, has been through Teleflora as a leader in education, has been through coming to different conventions and different hands-on workshops and, you know, the whole 9 yards. And sometimes I think that we as designers, we don't take enough time to do for ourselves. We're very busy doing for others. And there's a lot of good to that without question. But we also need to take care of the designer within. So I encourage you to save your money and go and take some of these classes that you see that are offered, because you have so much to offer. But you need to go and learn how to, like, for me, it was like, stick to what you're good at. You know, if you're great with this wire work stuff that I think is so beautiful, there's not enough vodka in the world to get me to create one. But it's beautiful and I love it, you know. So whatever it is you're good at, I think you should stick to it. You know, I think we find in corporate America today, particularly in my role as mayor for my town, that the people that we're hiring because they're good at something, not a bunch of things, something. And I think I can relate that to the floral industry. We need to find out what our niche is as a designer or as our identity as a shop and go with it. And for me, in my small town of Clayton, North Carolina, located right outside of Raleigh, it was sympathy work. So I have always enjoyed sympathy work. And you know, when you're in a small town with 3 other shops and someone prominent dies, this is, you know, kind of back in the day, everybody wanted to know who's doing the family work. Who got the casket spray? Did Clayton Flower Shop get the casket spray, or was it City Florist? Does Jody have the casket spray? And then we would all make that call of, hey, we just got an order from a family member that kind of wants to coordinate with what's going on. Are you guys doing the knowing good and well we don't have an order, but we so want to know. Well, I'm a slow learner, but I caught on pretty daggone quick. And as my ability to do more family work pieces, you know, increased, people would call and say, hey, what's the casket spray going to be for Mrs. Lee? And I would say, it's going to be pink roses and hydrangea, which wasn't a lie. But what do you think they made? White hydrangeas, soft pink roses. And this is what I created. So I wasn't trying to trick them. I'm not trying to be bad. What I'm trying to do is separate myself from the competition, because I think in any aspect of what we do, we have to separate ourselves from what's going on down the street. In my case, down the street and up the street, because I was deadlocked in the center. And we have to stick to what we're really good at. So they would come in and they would see the casket spray and the 2 matching side pieces that I had created for the sympathy work for the family. They would be like, wow, it's beautiful. But you told me it was hydrangea and roses, pink roses. And I'm like, well, this is hydrangea, this is pink roses. You know, I think one thing to help separate us from what everybody else does is that we need to look at these unique, specialized color palettes. And it's not easy, and the reason is because we are so accustomed to doing what we do, knowing what we know. But when we allow ourselves to experiment with color palettes that we don't usually play with, therein lies the education, therein lies the differentiation between what you are creating and what everybody else is creating. So for this morning's program, I created a casket spray and 2 matching urns. Very much into the stick, the branch. You know, I'm from North Carolina, y'all, we call them sticks, okay? But you can call them branches. I will pronounce the word foliage correctly today, because last year I was in Connecticut and this wonderful older lady came up after the program and she said, you're an extremely talented young man. Thank you so much. There's one thing you need to work on. Please tell me, because I'm like so open to feedback. She said, honey, it's not foliage. It's foliage. I said, oh my God, it's 3 syllables. In the South, we had no idea. I've been going all across this country going foliage, foliage, foliage. Thank you so much, because eventually I'm going to end up in California on the West Coast. Isn't that going to be something for the presenter up there to be going, well, I put some foliage up in here, you know. She was so kind. Yeah, they're so much wonderful. But I love the use of the branches, and you know, Helen Miller, wonderful, you all know and love her as much as I do, called and said, is there anything that I can do to help you with this program? And I was just going through my list of this program, and I thought, oh my goodness, I don't have pedestals and urns. No problem, I got it. Oh my God. Is there anything you need from outside? I was like, Helen, you and I, we love this whole branch stick thing, so anything that you can bring. Well, how big do you want them? Well, I'm gonna show you how big she brought them in a little bit. I thought, Lord, girl, did you drive a limousine? These things are like, you know, it's awesome. But I think it adds to the overall composition up there. And the form is a little bit different than normal. So I think traditionally when I do, or I see other people who do matching pieces on either side of the casket, right? It's very symmetrical or asymmetrical, okay? But I rarely see the repeated line of the casket spray on this. And when I do, because my clients for 20 years in my hometown, they've seen this, okay? And they like it. But now they see this and they go, wow, you know? And my people down the street are still doing this. Amazing. So repeating the form in this concept. So everything doesn't have to have a tremendous spike. Some of those lines can be graceful and flowing and natural, just like we find it in nature. So another thing about the whole celebration of life is that, you know, historically, sympathy is a very sad time. And we all realize that. And we've all experienced it at one time or another. We all know what it's like to deal with those families when they come in, you know, and I learned early on, if you feel like crying with them, then cry with them, you know, but I'm a big crier, so I can't, I might be the one, you know, the wailer, so I try to keep that on the chill, but that opportunity for the consultation with that family is invaluable, and I found it to be invaluable because I like to do some things that are different and more conversational when I create funeral sympathy word celebrations of life. And I started doing one like per funeral, and it took a while for people to catch on. But after about a year or two, that's when people came in and said, oh, when Mrs. Sauls died, you did this beautiful thing with Gone with the Wind, and my mother collected whatever, you know, ballet shoes, dance shoes, can you do something with those, you know? Oh my gosh, that's a prime opportunity for us to be able to showcase our artistry, to be able to storytell, to create something that isn't just a traditional spray on a stand with a nice satin bow in the center. And of course, I have clients who like that, and you know, if that's what they want, I design it for them and I send it out, which is fine because satisfied customer, you know, no one in our industry, and if you did, please stand up, but no one in our industry got rich quick. You know, it's all about repeat business. We saw what you did here. Can you do something like that similar here? That kind of thing. So it started growing, and finally I achieved the reputation of being the funeral storyteller, you know, the tribute guy. If you want something really cool, go see Jody. And the beauty of that was that I started out back in the day with my price being what I thought was affordable, and now there's a price tag on it. And I never wanted to be the most expensive. I never wanted to be the cheapest, but I'm finding out that I stayed the cheapest too long. You know, I'll retail 26 years, probably 15 of those getting by, living out of the cash register, buying groceries, paying the utility bill. You guys know, I mean, we're all real everyday florists. And then, you know, 10 years ago, I started getting my head on straight, and I was saying, you know, this is no longer $150, it's more like $395, and they love it, and they write a check for it. Sometimes I think we limit ourselves more. I know I did. And my wife was like, honey, why in the world have you not been doing this for the last 15 years, you know? It's like, I get it, you know? So she finally says to me, this is no longer a hobby. You're either going to get a real job or start making money in this florist. And so I got my head on straight and have been hugely successful and extremely blessed. So it only takes a little encouragement from that one special person, right? Because when you sleep with the bookkeeper, if there's no money in the bank, it's very cold. It's very cold. Some of you know exactly what I'm saying. So while we're going to explore different types of celebrations, different types of stories, I want to reinforce that there's still tremendous value in our market today for arrangements to the home. And so basically the table at the base of the stage are everyday designs. And it can be for millennials, it can be for people who just like certain color, it can be for all of those who don't want to spend a whole bunch of money but want to send a nice remembrance. You know, we are in charge of sending that remembrance. So if you like it, probably someone else is going to like it. And if you don't like it, somebody else is probably not going to like it. Because your eye is the trained eye, and you are the interpreter for your customer. So everyday design, you know, whether it's monochromatic design with lavender glassware and lavender flowers, or if it's pink glassware and pink flowers. Monochromatic, I love the use of that, primarily because the florist up the street from me and the florist down the street from me, they're doing this mixed stuff, okay? But when we have Secretary's Day and I'm sending my monochromatic vases out and everybody walks into the office and goes, wow, these are beautiful, with 2 other arrangements there from somewhere else, because that monochromatic is so strong, pulls in, creates value. And listen, designers, I used to think everything had to be complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated anymore. It just has to be striking. It has to be that magnet that pulls them in. Much like yesterday, I was talking with one of the top 5 finalists outside, and I asked him which design was yours, and he told me, and I said, well, you know, like when I saw those 5 on the table, there was one I was drawn to. There was one that said, come here and look at me. That was his. So when I create my everyday arrangements going out for sympathy, I want it to still be something that's beautiful and affordable and profitable, but I want it to say, hey, come over here and look at me. So I want you to keep that in mind, definitely, for your future expansion of when you're doing everyday designs, taking wonderful containers like the Teleflora Cube. Teleflora has come out with so many wonderful new containers that are not just for flowers. We can mix it up with plants, the whole 9 yards, and sweet little keepsake remembrances. Oftentimes, I think we feel like we have to do big and ginormous, more show for the dough, but sometimes I think that sweet remembrance means more than everything. You know, I'm so appreciative to get something that's kind of small and unique, and you know, it's not a giant peace lily, you know, it's just like small or just miniature orchid or that kind of thing. So I think when we look at scale, it doesn't always have to be giant to be effective and to be appreciative and to be profitable. So also with Teleflora, they have the Christ statue and they have the angel statue, which I love, because people love a keepsake. And obviously, for obvious reasons, right? They love a keepsake. And it's fantastic that you can offer something like this that they can keep and cherish. But it doesn't just have to be something as simple as the angel or the Christ statue. It can be pretty much anything. So it's going to be up to you to figure out during that consultation, like, where do you need to go with this, you know? When you're hearing the stories, when you're hearing the comments, when you're hearing everything that's going on about the person who's deceased, that's when your mind should be clicking about, hey, he loved this, or hey, she loved that, and we could do this, you know? Because they're coming to us, they're coming to you. They're coming to you because you're the expert. They're coming to you because you're the one who knows. You know, they don't know, they have a lot going on. You know, sometimes death can be weeks and weeks of sickness, and they can just be so, you know, thank God for people like us who can help them to interpret and express the joy and the love and the admiration they had for that individual. So with that being said, I want to move on to our first kind of storytelling celebration of life, because I truly believe life should be celebrated. I think it should be joyful, and I'm seeing that even in my small town outside of Raleigh, North Carolina, that people are, it's becoming more of a party concept atmosphere inside the room where the family is receiving friends. It's not so much the traditional line up and walk past the, view the body and speak to the family. It's very much more interactive, and it's allowing people to go to different places in the visitation room and see all the storytelling concepts and the beautiful flowers that have shown up. So I would like to start with a great product from Syndicate Sales. This is from the Serenity line. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, but if you're not, it's an awesome product. It comes in like 2 different sizes. It's already pre-foamed, put together for you. The beauty of it is that it has reservoirs in the base to hold water so the foam can continue to stay hydrated, which is wonderful. Now, I used to make this using styrofoam and wet foam and tape it up and make beautiful and sit the urn arrangement in the center. And I thought I had invented sliced bread all over again. And it was wonderful. And everybody loved it. And when I carried it to the church and I put it on the altar and they lit the candles, it was beautiful. family was so pleased. And then the church secretary called after the service and she said, Jody, the paraments across the table are completely saturated. Was something wrong with the container that you used? Because my foam had leaked water. The wet foam had leaked water onto the styrofoam, which then got absorbed by the fabric, the parament. So obviously I had to go have that dry cleaned and put back in place before Sunday. You know, forgiveness sometimes is easier, and they forgave me. But with the Serenity line product, it's amazing because everything is self-contained and you don't have to worry about leakage or staining or anything like that. It comes with a plastic disc that will insert down into the foam so that you can have a nice sturdy place to insert the urn. It also comes with more of an L-shaped plastic container that kind of like holds an 8x10 or a 5x7. But it can be used for so much more. Created definitely for sympathy work, but it can be expanded upon like that. So if you guys will bring out our first accessories, that will be fantastic. So I love that it's flexible, and I love that you can use it for what it's intended for. But more importantly, I love that you can enhance this and you can get a lot of more bang for the buck. And whoever knew you could do that just with one simple mechanic like the Serenity line. All right? So no joke, one time I had a man who passed away, and honestly, his favorite cereal was Fruit Loops. So they said, I don't know what you can do with Fruit Loops, but that was Dad's favorite. He ate it 3 times a day. I was like, oh my gosh. And then the famous question, have you ever done anything with Fruit Loops? Well, you know, you can't exactly say, oh, sure, I've done Fruit Loops 1,000 times. Because obviously, you know, that's not the case. But to be able to take the Serenity that was created for just an urn arrangement and then to bring something elevated into the picture, whether it's additional flowers or in this case, we were spotlighting the guy's favorite cereal, you know? And do you know how much interaction and joy this brought into the environment of the viewing room for somebody? How cool was that, you know? And it wasn't like anything that was super expensive. Well, I mean, if they paid me, it was super expensive, but the elements that were used in it wasn't super expensive, but super effective, right? So this concept can be used with baseballs, golf balls, Cheerios. I mean, and you know, this is a morning program, so I thought I should bring breakfast, right? Absolutely. But look at how well it showcases itself. Look at what a great story that is already. You know, I've been working in the workroom with phenomenal people, like all of my favorites are here, and I'm just trying to stand in the corner and going, oh my God, these people are here. And to hear people talk about, what is that? What is that? I think it's cereal. No, yeah, I think it's Fruit Loops. How perfect Jody McLeod would bring Fruit Loops, you know? It takes one to know one. So to create a little topper for this, you know, we've seen Donald Yim with Smithers. Phenomenal, love him. I can tell you right now, he doesn't work as fast in real life as he does on that video, because on that video, he's working like this, boom, boom. In the back room, it's a little bit more methodical. But he's a master. And I'm loving Smithers' new Midnight Foam. And fortunately for me, this got left in a bucket. The orb got left in a bucket. And I kept my eye on that orb. And I thought, oh my gosh, because don't have a lot of time to play with that, and I want to. And to see Donald play with it makes me want to like jump in there even more, right? So we took the Fruit Loops and we just inserted it because, you know, we've learned that you can stencil this and you can carve this and you can, there's so much so many different things that you can do with the Midnight Foam. So for me, it was just inserting the Fruit Loops. And look at what a great look that gives. And of course it could be taught. Thank you, that's awesome. I'm glad you like it. Anybody got milk? Different, you know? And so this morning I get back there and everything's held up beautifully. Yay. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I wonder if Kelly Mace is gonna be here. Because, you know, she's awesome. And, you know, like she's got all these wonderful designers working for her. But like, I wanna do something with their product that like no one else has ever done, ever. Not Kevin, not Donald, not anybody. So what did I do? I put Fruit Loops in there. It was awesome. You know, it gave me color, it gave me pattern, it gave me repetition, it gave me all the wonderful things that we need in floral design, right? So I hope Kelly gets to see this so she can put it all over the world that, oh my gosh, look at what you can do with our new Midnight Foam and Fruit Loops. That's a post that would make you stop and pause. But, you know, this is the kind of concept that I'm talking about when we celebrate life. This is what I'm talking about. You know, it's okay when we have those clients who want things that are very traditional, and great, always give the client what they want. I'm 100% for that. But if we don't show them what we can do, if we don't show them what we know, then how are they going to ever know, right? And until you demonstrate in your shop that you have the capability, then how will they know? Because we only have so much time for interaction, and they came to conduct business. They didn't come to find out how fabulous and everything that you can do. But there are subtle times, or there are visual displays that you can have that convey what you're capable of doing. And we need to make sure that we do that. So I hope you enjoy breakfast, Fruit Loops. You know, being from the South, the garden is very big. There are always competition. Who grows the bigger tomatoes, you know? Who has the best squash? Who has the most delicious zucchini? And they always plant so much more in a garden. One, because in the South, if you plant a big garden, it shows that you're a hard worker. Yeah, my garden would be like little, you know, like urban. But in the South, the garden is very big. So oftentimes I've had the opportunity to create items from the garden with a touch of flower that gives that beautiful storytelling about grandfather and his garden. And so today we were able to use Syndicate's foam wreath, aqua foam wreath, and incorporate our vegetables into it, slicing them because there's so much wonderful interest inside of every vegetable, and really being able to see the beautiful lines inside of the onions. Now, when we started slicing the onion in the workroom, people came in and were like, hey, what's for lunch? You know, they're like, oh yeah, you got breakfast going on, and now you're working on a salad for lunch, right? What's gonna be the entree? I'm like, I'm not quite sure yet. But to be able to just create a beautiful storytelling using beautiful fruits and vegetables and just highlighting it, you know, with touches of flowers and just little touches of texture that just makes the eye go in and out and in and out. And, you know, because it's round and low, we got to have something that's saying, hey, come over here and look at me. And I think that's exactly what the Pussy Willow does. I think it draws you right in because it's so fresh, it's so beautiful. And then we get to see the tools that were used to create in the garden. Okay, now obviously, if he had a big garden and these little tools, he would still be working, right? But the concept is there for people to see and to tell the story because it's a celebration of life. It's a celebration of something that they loved most, right? So, you know, when I'm creating this, obviously designers, it's most important to keep in mind your balance of weight in this, okay? So we have to make sure our weight is evenly dispersed, unless you want to like cut a piece of circular plywood to go underneath there. Details, right? So I keep in mind, because the way around that type of detail is to be mindful when you're creating about weight distribution so that when you pick it up, everything is nice and balanced and secure within the design. You know, all of this stuff, the funeral home hates, and I love that. But I will tell you this. If you're going to be successful in the sympathy world, you're going to have to be in relationship with the funeral homes. And, excuse me, if there are people who are already doing a lot of work with that one, then you know what? Don't give up, you know? Send them something once in a while. Let them know they're appreciated, you know? Create relationship. I've done that. I do the majority of the work in my town with the funeral home. And it's because, one, they know Jody McLeod is going to produce good designs and high customer satisfaction. And when someone like that makes a recommendation, you know, if it doesn't work, because like back in the day, they would say, down the street this month, up the street next month, and then the third month, Jody, it can be your turn. Well, service started getting back here. Floral quality and design started getting back here. But the consistent, the constant was right here. And you know, it probably took 10 years to get to that point, you know, but now I'm there. So relationship with the funeral home is totally where it's at. And when you bring in something that they don't normally see. Now, if this were a setup for an average funeral for me, then I would be the one transporting this for them. You know, not that I charged an extra fee to do it, but look at all the benefit I'm getting from it. Custom, unique work, everybody's engaged and talking about it. I mean, some things you can't put a price tag on, right? And that's one of them. So I will help with this part because let me tell you, you guys have seen those people at the funeral home. God bless them and I love them, but they don't even know how to lift an easel on a spray, you know? And then here we take so much time to create this and they throw it in the back of a van. You know, my $600 casket spray, they go, ooh, okay, we're ready. Or they take the casket spray and the back is really now facing the front. Yeah. So I'm not going to show you the back of this one because it's flat. So we don't have to go there today. But because it's educational fun experience, the main thing was like get scale and proportion and texture and all that good stuff in the front. But it's equally as important when you create that, as in any composition, to make sure it's finished off and looking nice. Because there could be someone placing it for you that might not place it exactly like you would. How great is that, right? So the other thing that I would encourage you as designers and shop owners to do is to go to the funeral home later in the day so that you can see what's there. Now, in my little neck of the woods, up the street, always did high style, phenomenal. Down the street did traditional, and I was learning in the middle, okay? But I would go at 4:15 to the funeral home because I knew he had already been, and I would go and look at his design work. And I would pull his sprays out, and I would see the mechanic on the back, and I would put his spray back in place, and I would see his first line, I would see his first placement. I learned, you know. But I think it's important to see how your designs are standing up in a room. Because most of the time, face it, you know, designers, you're at the bench, you're creating, you're complete, cards on it, driver carries it to the funeral home, and that's all you know, right? But you need to know how it shows up. And it doesn't have to be every time, shop owners. I know we need to get all we can out of the designers. So who are my shop owners? God bless y'all. Who are my shop designers? Oh, God bless y'all. We can't live without you, okay? Here's the other thing, shop owner and designer. It's so important, that relationship, right? Because designers, you need to know there are times that the shop owner is like literally buying groceries out of the cash register, okay? Because we're so committed that you get your paycheck, right? But then there are times, shop owners, that we need to be getting some new stuff. New way of marketing, new way of thinking, new way of purchasing. If you continue to purchase the same old things like you've always done, that's only the result that you're going to get. And to keep these designers engaged, Lord knows you got to buy them some new toys, right? Absolutely. But designers, guess what? You're the one in charge of making the profit. So if you get new toys, have fun, go crazy, love your job, but be profitable. You know, I think we heard earlier, one stem over a year in a composition for a shop is like a $10,000 missed sale, right? So I always would love to take a trip to Hawaii. I've never been. I never felt like I could afford it. But if I had not been stuffing for 15 years, I could have taken a trip around the world, right? But, you know, who knew? We have to be mindful of these things. Because sometimes we just get into what we're doing, right? And we're just making beautiful, right? But we still have to keep, designers, this is your message. We still, you know, our responsibility is to make sure we're profitable. That's what we do. And you know what? We're good at it. And that's why that partnership between a shop owner and a shop designer is so amazingly important. All right? That way you don't have to eat the vegetables left over from the funeral design, okay? Great. Our next design is created in the larger Syndicate Sales Serenity line. It's bigger at the base. But for this one, I didn't kind of want to use it for an urn. I didn't really care to use it to elevate a design. But I wanted to showcase the tropical fish because I have this one lady who had a beach home, and she had over 3,000 individual tropical fish inside of her oceanfront home at Carolina Beach. Do y'all know how many 3,000 tropical fish is? Oh my God, you're like, where is Nemo? You know, you talk about a school of fish. This is like a university. It was unbelievable. It was in wallpaper. It was wall hangings. It was in fabric. It was everywhere. but beautiful. And she loved her tropical fish. So I created this composition with the tropical fish, and because you know what? She was a sweet lady, but more than anything, she was probably a big fish in a small pond. Nothing wrong with that. If I'm going to be a big fish in a big body of water like the ocean, I want to be a whale. Yeah, because I'm hungry all the time, right? Exactly. And I'm slow getting up in the morning and moving, right? But I don't have to worry about a bunch of predators as bad. So, you know, just creating something as simple as some color harmonies that work beautifully together, just using some pretty basing techniques. It doesn't take a lot of product to create the design. So shop owners, you don't have to worry about, well, if we start doing this more storytelling, celebrating the life concept, how much more is it going to cost us on the bottom line? Well, designers, as a great designer, it doesn't take you a lot of product to be effective, you know, and then add your storyline into it. In this case, it's the tropical fish. And it can still be super profitable. For me, I'm making good money off of the sale of the flower and my labor. But, you know, there's some creativity fee, I call it, in there. Okay? And you can label it whatever you want to. But there's a definite, you know, fee in there for creating the idea. Because why? Because down the street, they can't do it, and up the street, they can't do it. Okay? Because that's what we're doing to help separate ourselves from what everyone else is doing. So I think these kind of concepts are wonderful. I think that they're easy to transport for you delivery drivers that are out there, because really, you know, flat bottom container, super easy, rides great in the van. You know, obviously you're not going to transport it with the big fish in the small pond, but you're going to insert that, you know, once you get there. So I hope you enjoyed the tropical fish. Oh yeah. So there's always an accent, you know, to every story design. And so for this accent with the Fruit Loops, it would definitely be, if I'm at the funeral home, it would definitely be not necessarily using rose petal confetti, but probably more important, just really putting out the Fruit Loops. Now, you know, in third grade, they said you can't eat these in front of anybody unless you have enough for everybody. So if anybody would like some Fruit Loops, I think we have enough for everyone to share, okay? But, you know, the accent for any design is always, you know, what takes it a little more over the top and, again, helps to create a lot more interest, and it helps to make what you're doing stand out above what everyone else is doing. And, you know, obviously I am like the dollar store's biggest fan. Some people love to go to the hardware store, but like I love the dollar store because there's just so much fun stuff to play with in there. And then I get up to the counter and check out, and the lady goes, "What are you doing?" Like there's really no need to explain, you know. There's really no, because she's not going to understand. Oh, I'm working on a sympathy arrangement, and I need some of these to go in my Fruit Loop design. Right? She's going to be like, okay, and what florist are you with? And I say, City Florist down the street, this side. Yes. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about, the biggest thing is a cross in my neck of the woods. And, you know, obviously we started back in the day with, I kind of like having this TV thing here, right? That's pretty cool, huh? We started back in the day with the traditional styrofoam. Remember when you would like pleat it with ribbon all the way around, and then you would either use toothpicks or that machine that puts the metal, pick machine. Okay, just making sure you're all with me, that's all. Pick machine, that kind of thing. But you know, nowadays my favorite is to just take a standard spray bar and create my lines of the cross with birch branches and then just be able to fill in my design. So this design is actually one bundle of birch branches, okay, and the elements that I needed to create the floral aspect of it. But look at the scale, and look at the size, and look at the interest, you know, and how much stronger this is than just like the standard styrofoam labor intensive, right? and way more bang for the buck. But it's not expensive, and it's not labor intensive. It's a 30-minute design. But look at how effective it is. So while everyone else is at the funeral home and they're bringing in their beautiful sprays, beautiful color palettes, beautiful satin ribbon in the center with mama on the ribbon, maybe that's a Southern thing. Bringing in something like this is a showstopper, right? Wow, how beautiful, because it's big as me, you know? Don't be afraid of your scale. If you're willing to go the extra mile for delivery, for setup or resetup or redelivery, then look at what it can do for you and look at how it's going to separate you from the rest. So love the use of the color yellow. Again, monochromatic, because monochromatic is so strong and it's so powerful, you know? And I will tell you, I think one of the biggest struggles out there in floral design for many people is the use of color. And color can be extremely challenging, okay? Because if I threw out a quiz right now on color, you know, like I probably couldn't answer half the questions myself that I would be asking you because I'm not like super color, you know, like triadic and analogous and the color wheel and what starts where, and you know, and I think as a designer, when we're like educated in color, we kind of feel like overwhelmed. You know, maybe we're not so overwhelmed with the other principle and elements of design, but this whole thing called color. And then we look at those people that we admire so much in our industry and the things they post and the color. You know, some of the wedding, vibrant, oh my gosh, yummy, incredible, you know, the use of color, what it does for us. And it doesn't matter on any level, if it's every day, if it's sympathy, celebration, if it's wedding, that use of color. So we're going to have to start training our eyes and stepping our game up a little bit when it comes to the color. And I'm right on the boat with you. I'm rowing right beside you. Don't worry. It's not like I've got this and you need to get there. We're all in this together. Because fortunately, our growers are equally as excited about what they're doing as what we're doing. So, you know, they're trying to create all this wonderful yumminess for us. But we've got to step up our game on the color. And I think once we do that, that's what's going to also help to separate us from everyone else. So cross is always a standard for me. And they love it, and it's quick and easy, and it's super effective. Not to mention it has a beautiful meaning during the sympathy time. Big cross, that's right. My friend Randy Wooten was in the workroom, and when he finished with his program, he came back there and he said, Lord, honey. Because, you know, he's from Georgia, and they make things bigger than we do in North Carolina. So I said, well, Randy, like, I don't know how you're going to get it any bigger. It's taller than you are. He said, and thank the Lord, honey, it's wider than I am too. You know? I love Randy Wooten. I think he is an amazing artist. I had an opportunity to do a design for a man in my hometown that was completely and totally in love with Vegas. And everybody knew he had a gambling problem. Everybody knew he had like won a few $1 million in Las Vegas. That's enough to make you have a gambling problem, isn't it? Yeah. And obviously, you know, as the mayor, you hear all things, both good and bad. And when they came and seized one of his farms, we knew, had a bad day in Vegas, you know. But he loved it. And when he passed away, his family was like, Daddy loved it, you know. And his wife, she didn't like it. But we did everything Vegas, everything. And when the following week, when his wife came to pay for everything, she said, you really outdid yourself. She said, I can't begin to tell you what this meant to my family, not just our immediate family, but our extended family. You know, what it meant to his brothers and his side of the family. Like, sometimes I think we have to remember our reach in celebrating life isn't just those few people that we met with who immediate family, right? The reach is much greater than that. So I have a wonderful friend who has a sign shop right down the street, and I call Linda all the time, and I'm saying, hey, Linda, I need. And so for this particular one, I needed the Queen of Hearts because that's what he called his wife, and she hated it. And isn't that just perfect that when you pass away that, you know, you're at your celebration of life, and there's the Queen of Hearts, and you hated him calling you that, right? But I guess when he came on with the $2 million win, she was like, hey, I'm the Queen of Hearts. And I'm like, no, honey, you should be the Queen of Diamonds now. Most definitely. Because with that kind of chunk of change, you can definitely get what you need. So, you know, just taking a beautiful urn container from Teleflora and adding that beautiful Holly Chapel exclusively for Syndicate pillow in it is one of my most favorite mechanics to work with right now. And I'm sure you've all seen it. They were featured at the expo as well. Marvelous mechanic. You know, I just don't think it gets any better than this for right now. I love the fact that the stems stay in the water all the time. You talk about amazing longevity versus being in foam. You know, I think that it's wonderful to create an acrylic that is good looking, that looks like money. And if it looks like money, it must be money, you know? And I love this. So I can take a beautiful stylized design in a high-end container, and then I can just take it right out and add right to. You know, transportation is super simple. Longevity is amazing, and the durability is phenomenal. And we're going to showcase that a little bit more in just a brief minute. But that's what the Vegas design is created with, is just the pillow. Beautiful glads, you know, like again, dollar store, Rubik's Cube, hearts, diamonds. How awesome is that, the Joker? Like, I don't know how many of you were good with this thing, but like I used to spin it and play with it for hours. You know, it was just amazing. My mom was fascinated. She's like, oh my God, that kid just stays with that Rubik's Cube all the time, right? And like, I could never get the colors to match up, so I took the stickers off. Sure did, more than one way to skin a cat, right? Exactly. So our little ode to, most definitely our ode to Las Vegas. And okay guys, I think we're gonna bring out our finale piece because I see our time is going so quick. Y'all are so awesome, thank you. You know, you're just a joy to be with, and it's Sunday morning for crying out loud, so. Not quite sure how I ended up with this time schedule, but you know, regardless, pardon? Because I'm beautiful, yay. Where is the tip money? Oh my goodness. So my latest gig in the funeral industry is obviously I tell my funeral director what he needs to do, okay? So I'm the Jerome Raska of North Carolina. Thank you. Yeah, you can bring that on. That's good, bring that on, yeah. So I love to create a table. Oh my goodness. Look, isn't that yummy? Look, awesome. Killer mechanic, right? Super strong, throw it in the air, nothing comes out, it's amazing. Wow, I know, I get that every time, and every time I do it and nothing falls out, I'm like, wow. Super mechanic from my friends at Syndicate. But I try to get him to understand just a little Bud-based beat. It's for the home coffee table. It can just go right here. That's awesome. Yep. Thank you. And I tell him, his name is Jim, but we call him Jimbo. Obviously, we're from the South. Everybody's Bo. You can help me get those candles in there. So I say to Jimbo, I want us to start in the center of the visitation room. I want you to get me a nice, beautiful round table, okay? And it can be like wood, drum table kind of concept, but we need one under that chandelier in the center of the room. And he goes, Bo, what do we need that for? I'm like, Bo, because we're going to start creating some sympathy tributes that go on this table, that while everyone, you know, is circling around and interacting and everything, they're going to be able to see what this person's life was all about and going to see the joy that was there. One of my favorite expressions on a card was a gentleman who wrote this about his brother who was killed tragically in a car accident, and his card said, the joy of his living will be remembered far longer than the sorrow of his passing. And I thought, oh my God, I want that to describe me. You know, like it's terrible that poor little Jody McLeod got ran over by the train, but he had a good life and he brought a lot of joy and he enjoyed what he did. And that's the kind of momentum and the strength and the storytelling that we want to bring to the sympathy world. You know, people say sympathy is dying in our industry. Well, I don't think so. I think sympathy is the next thing. There's always going to be weddings, but there's always going to be sympathy. And it's what we can do to create and enhance that experience. So we don't ever think in terms of experiencing a funeral or a sympathy, but we should be creating an experience for these people, right? Because, you know, at a funeral home, you're going to have 150 or 250 people held captive to be able to see what you do and to see how it's done. We're the ones who bring this is how we do it. This is how it's done. So for me, no, that's great. For me, this was going to be all about the beach. And in my area, we have so many people who love the beach, right? Because, you know, I'm 2 hours to the beach and 4 hours to the mountains, and too ADD to have to drive for too long. Whoops. Whoops. Yeah, like this one or this one. That was last night after a beautiful celebration. And thank you. And, you know, nothing says beach quite like sand, right? And so sand obviously can be, you know, messy sometimes. So instead of sand, I think maybe, you know, and totally like being from the South, like if we just start bringing in some grits, you know, I told you I brought breakfast for everybody, right? But I have found that the grits, and some of my clients think that stands for girls raised in the South, but it's not necessarily so. But I love the use of the grits for creating that sand effect as a beautiful artistic element. And then, obviously, we're able to enhance this with some beautiful seashells. And then, obviously, I would request, hopefully, they would bring some pictures of the time that, you know, good times spent at the beach with family and friends. So celebrating the life is really our job. It's really our calling, you know, to help these individuals and these families to celebrate the life of their loved one. And when we bump up our creative knowledge and our ability, when we think differently about different elements that we can use to create this for people, it's amazing the joy and the comfort and the peace that it brings to somebody. You know, you just can't beat it. So I want to thank you again for having me here today. I want to thank my sponsor, Teleflora. I hope you've had an opportunity to visit our booth out in the expo. If you have any questions, those professionals are out there ready to help you any way that they can. I'm appreciative to Teleflora for being a strong leader in education for our country and for mom and pop, real everyday florists like me. So thank you for having me, and I hope you have a great day. And go out there and celebrate the life, man.
Jody, thank you so much.
Awesome.
On behalf of the Great
you.
Lakes Floral Association, we sure appreciate you coming this morning and sharing with all of us. And as you guys can see, he's such an incredibly talented designer, and this is absolutely a vital part of our industry, and it's alive and well. Maybe not the, you know,
no
the people that we're sending to.
That's
but
awesome.
Honestly, this is a very vital part of our business. So thank you again so much.
My pleasure.
We sure
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Michigan State. You guys are awesome. Thanks, Doug.
Yes, sir.